Hey everyone, Slayer Dre here, and today I'll be reviewing Hades, developed and published by Supergiant Games. You know, I've heard nothing but overly positive things about Supergiant Games over the years, and I've always been interested in trying one out. Bastion and Transistor in particular are extremely well regarded, and at some point I would love to try them out. Supergiant appears to be an incredibly talented indie studio that has a strong focus on narrative and a beautiful 2D art style, along with tremendously fun gameplay, and Hades is no different. Hades is a very fine-tuned roguelite game packed with challenging combat and a rich story, which is very rare for an indie studio to be able to pull off on only their fourth game, although the founders' experience working on the Command & Conquer games back in the day surely helped. So with all that being said, let's get into it. I know art is subjective, but damn, I don't think there's anyone who can deny how gorgeous the 2D art is in Hades. It's stylized like a comic book filled with both vibrant colors and at the same time muted ones when needed, making hell look like not that bad of a place to hang out. I mean, the areas filled with molten lava might be a tad bit uncomfortable, but you could probably take some nice selfies before your camera melts. The 2D particle effects are stunning at times, especially the fire. It might even look better than most 3D cel-shaded games. There's a few different sections of the underworld, each having its own unique look and style. You start off in Tartarus, which feels like a crypt dripping with detail everywhere. There's ancient pillars ordained with statues, cobwebs, and candles for atmosphere, along with giant fire pits emitting green fire giving an eerie hue to the environment. While I always say give me gameplay over graphics, artwork like this looks so unique that it almost feels like a gameplay mechanic, as it helps sell the narrative and creates immersion for the player. The pulled back isometric view works perfectly so you can see all the action as it hurls towards you, and I can't remember a single time I saw a single frame drop. I played the PC version and it ran at a perfect 144 FPS, even with lower end mid-tier hardware. I would recommend the PC version over the Switch version because, as I'll go over later, the game is rather difficult and having the extra FPS will make combat feel much more responsive. You play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, who is attempting to leave the underworld against the wishes of his father. Since you are a son of a god and cannot die, if you fall in combat during your escape attempt, you are sent back to home in the depths of hell. The reasons for Zagreus wanting to escape slowly unfold as you meet other people in the underworld and build relationships with them. Everyone, including his family above ground on Mount Olympus, are completely supportive of Zagreus in his attempt to escape, which helps him and by extension the player build up confidence to overcome the trials that await them. Well, everyone's supportive except for his father, who taunts and belittles Zagreus' attempts to escape every time you die and go back home. Zagreus does the best he can to overcome this by telling himself, "I can do this," which serves the dual purpose of working with the narrative and building up confidence in the player to beat what is a very difficult game. When you make it to the end of a stage, you'll run into bosses who are basically co-workers as Zagreus. He tells them they don't actually have to try and stop him, they can just let him escape. But since everyone fears the wrath of Hades, they do everything in their power to stop Zagreus from escaping. As you progress through the game, you'll collect special items that you can gift to NPCs that will build up a relationship with them. The first time you gift an item, you will receive a special item that will give Zagreus a unique buff, and additional gifts will unlock more combinations with that particular NPC. I was really surprised with the depth of the story and how well it succeeded in immersing me in that world. I ended up caring about Zagreus' plight, and in turn it helped motivate me to beat the game and see the conclusion of the story. As far as the combat goes, it's somewhat of a hybrid of action isometric combat and at times a bullet hell. I use a controller, and as the game strongly suggests, I would also recommend using one. You'll be zipping around and dodging quite a few attacks while dishing out your own, and I feel like using a controller will lead to a much more satisfying experience. For attacks, you have a standard attack and special attack along with dodging, which can be used in combination with a standard attack to do a dodge attack. You also get a spellcast attack, although I found it needed to be upgraded before it really becomes useful. After a few runs, you'll also unlock a summon move, but you'll need to find an upgrade to use it on each run. Each weapon has its own moveset and can lead to very different playstyles, giving the combat a healthy amount of variety. A personal favorite was the shield that basically makes Zagreus become Captain America. You can toss around the shield and have it bounce around enemies or simply just bash them close range. It even adds in a block along with a charge attack that can lead to devastating combos. As I said earlier, the gods of Olympus will aid you on your quest. Each god has a set of enhancements called boons that will change how your attacks function, and they are one of the main progression systems in the game. All enhancements are randomized each turn and lost when you die, so it will take some trial and error to see which god's boons work best for you, and of course, some gods will be better suited to certain weapons over others. Boons also add a lot of variety to the combat in addition to multiple weapon options. Boons usually have a theme depending on which god you receive them from. For instance, Zeus will add a lightning attack to your weapons and dodge attacks, while Artemis adds a chance to do critical damage with your weapons. Sometimes the boons will greatly change how an attack functions, like an Ares boon that changes your spellcast attack to a giant razor blade that glides across the room. Each room rewards either a boon or currency, and a lot of the time you'll have a choice between two rooms depending on which reward you want. There's always the choice between, do I get something that will help me on this run, or do I get something that will help me in the long term? There's gold, which can be used to buy limited time boons and health replenishment, but all gold is lost when you die. There are also a few other currencies like keys and darkness that you do get to keep when you do die. For instance, keys can unlock new weapons while darkness is used for permanent boons. The permanent boons can range from having extra health when you start a new run to giving you additional lives. These boons are key to progression and do make a real difference in helping you escape hell. There are a few other currencies, but the other one I do want to mention is gemstones. After a few runs, a contractor will pop up at your house and you'll be able to pay him to fix and customize your room and change the decor of your house. There are a few other upgrades as well that can aid you in your escape attempts, which is what I focus spending my gemstones on. Honestly, I was not planning on reviewing this game, but I kept hearing one good thing after another about it, so I decided to try it out. And I'm glad I did, because I was blown away at the incredibly high quality of Hades and just the pure amount of fun it is to play it. While I enjoy all genres of games, roguelites are admittedly not my favorite by a long shot, so the fact that I couldn't stop playing Hades speaks volumes about it. From watching gameplay before I tried it out, I was pretty confident that the combat looked solid, but the story caught me by surprise. It was absolutely gripping and pulled me in. I love how Zagreus is somewhat lacking in confidence at the start, and through the help of his family, he grows stronger and is eventually able to overcome adversity. His family members in Mount Olympus did not even know of his existence and are overcome with joy at the prospect of finally meeting him, and do everything they can from afar to aid him. Zagreus also has some of the Hades household members risking the wrath of Hades just to help him in his journey. Like I said earlier, this works perfectly on two levels. It both creates an immersive and interesting narrative, and helps build the player's confidence in overcoming a difficult game. At the start of my final run, where I beat the game, Zagreus confidently stated, "I can do this," as though he was cheering both himself and me on. While it's not a completely original story, it's told in such a unique way that it really makes you become invested in seeing Zagreus finish his quest. I do have to mention, while I did beat the game, there is quite a bit of endgame content, so people who wish to play at higher difficulties can continue to play. There's also additional story beats that can be unlocked as well if you beat the game multiple times, which I do plan on doing. Like I said, this isn't exactly my favorite type of game, so I thought I would put it down after I finished it, but instead I can't wait to keep playing more. As far as the combat goes, it works to near perfection. One of the issues with fast-paced 2D combat I always seem to notice is hit detection, but not in this game. The responsiveness is also incredible, which is definitely needed considering it's a very fast-paced game. The only real issue I had with the game is that it is heavily luck-based. While buying permanent upgrades can help you get further each run, if you do not get the good boons from the gods, runs can be extremely difficult. Because of this fact, each person can have a very different experience in their playthroughs from one another. Part of the game is figuring out which boons to go for, and there are some items that can help you get specific gods to appear, although you will always have to deal with a certain level of randomness. That being said, some people do enjoy this style of gameplay, and it does make each playthrough unique. Bosses can be quite challenging, although depending on which boons you receive, it can drastically change the level of difficulty. I also found some weapons to be considerably better than others for my playstyle, and you'll need to find what works best for you. I had a string of few runs where I made it to the last boss, but the upgrades I received along the way were quite terrible, making the boss fight almost impossible. The time I did finally beat the last boss, I didn't have the best of upgrades, but at that point I had enough permanent upgrades to just make it through the fight. So overall, it's an amazing game. However, it's not going to be for everyone. Roguelite is somewhat of a niche genre, and I'm actually surprised at how popular the game has become. It really speaks volumes when a game is good enough to draw in people that usually do not play that style of game. So if you enjoy roguelites, bullet hell, or fast-paced action combat, you're probably going to enjoy Hades. If you do not like losing progress when you die, it could end up being frustrating, although each run isn't too long. They can be roughly a little over an hour long, but it's highly dependent on how lucky you are with upgrades. It took me about 8 hours to beat the game, and considering it's only $25, I feel like I got my money's worth, not to mention you can keep playing on higher difficulties. All that being said, I'm going to give Hades an 8 out of 10. Honestly, it's so much fun. Even if it's not your style of game, I would recommend trying it out if you can find it on a steep sale. But for anyone else who's interested, it's absolutely worth it, even at full price. It's pretty crazy to see a small developer make such a high quality game that focuses on just a few gameplay aspects, but fine-tunes them to near perfection, while most giant AAA game companies can't even manage to release a properly functioning game, let alone a good one. It's my hope that we start to see some of these indie developers like Supergiant Games continue to grow and develop into bigger and better studios. Who knows, maybe one of them will become the next BioWare or Blizzard, as those companies are sorely missed. I'm actually really curious about Supergiant's other games now, and will probably try them out whenever I have some free time. I think this is going to do it for my 2020 game reviews, as next year's games are coming out in less than a week from the time of writing. I'll be doing a top 5 best games of 2020 video in the next few days as well, so be on the lookout for that. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you're subscribed and hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.